So welcome to Scone Day. 2 pounds of self-raising flour, very hard to come by. What you need to do is make very good friends with the local tradesmen, especially local tradesmen who've got family who work in local grocery outlets. And you'll find a steady stream of flour can in fact be secured and maintained at all times. I do like to make my scones unbearably light. Jane, are my scones often unbearably light?
They are.
Unbearably so. In fact, most things I do is unbearable, including the lightness of my scones. So, I like to sieve these 2 pounds of this 2 pounds of self-raising flour. We use self-raising flour because we need it to raise itself without external assistance from other chemical agents. You'll notice to my right, to your left, as I continue to sieve this self-raising flour. I think somebody should also invent self-sifting self-raising flour, don't you, Jane? I think there's a market for such aids to the busy domestic god. Apologies for the rips in my t-shirt, by the way, showing my understate. Yes, plain flour. My co-worker here can give you a little bit of a tip on the ratio of plain flour to baking powder. But she's forgotten. She's forgotten. A little bit of cannon shine so there. Anyway, blue in the Tesco's lexicon equates to self-raising flour. There we are, a little finish there. I do find myself enjoying a little bit of Salvation Army tambourine at the same time as well, with that little sieving action there. Red in the Tesco lexicon is plain flour. Because I've now weighed out precisely the amount of self-raising flour and have used it all up, I'm going to be using the plain flour for my rolling out activity as well. Okay, so there's my 2 pounds of self-sieved, self-raising flour, the base for every good scone recipe. Over to the fridge. Butter. Butter, going out to my other. I've just found the European Union's, although we've left, the European Union's butter mountain, which is in the top shelf of our fridge out in the shed. 8 pounds of butter. Half a pound.
Yes.
4 pounds of butter. My co-worker here has found her voice. She'll remember the ratio of plain flour to baking powder. Is bicarbonate of soda, Jane, and baking powder, is it the same ratio?
No.
So, for every pound of flour, 2 ounces of butter. I'm going to use my heavily trained eye. That's 4 ounces, half a pound, half of half a pound. Oh, set my scales on again. Re-zeroize this, the wonders of modern digital technology. Ooh, a little bit too much. Don't want to be overdoing it. A little bit of precision is always helpful here. A very elderly baker, aka my father, once told me he doesn't weigh anything, he just throws it all together. I think he's a bit of a bake-off kind of guy. 4 ounces perfectly. So that is going to be rubbed in to the flour mix. But what I'm also going to do is, because my family, very fussy bunch, do like to have a little bit of sweetness to the flour. So I'm going to add in some caster ground sugar. Now I'm not weighing this out because this is just kind of a feel thing. This is a how sweet do I think they like it. So literally the old man of the hills says just a handful of caster sugar to throw it in. And what the sweetness does, it gives it a little bit of extra depth to the flavour of the scone. But it also gives you a nice, rich brown crust caused by the caramelisation effect of the sugar that is in the mix. So there's a little bit of sugar. Perfectly feasible to have that without. And then we're going to add the butter in, and then we're going to rub. Rub until this is like a breadcrumb texture. Now I find a very cold butter is the most effective thing here. Actually, let me just mix that granulated sugar, excuse me, not granulated, that caster sugar in a bit more evenly. Start putting the butter in, but I like to put it in little cubes, because I find it's easier then to get my fingers around the cubes. It speeds up the actual rubbing in process. Because this is great television, watching a man rub butter into a flour and sugar mix. Well, not forgetting my pinch of salt. Jane of course queued for an hour outside Tesco's to get me a single salt cellar of table salt. I do find using sea salt, which is our main staple for our seasoning in the house, doesn't contribute to the baking as well as the heavily refined milled table salt, which of course gets lost in any mix. So there's all my cubes of my 4 ounces of butter into my 2 pounds, which is, how many ounces is 2 pounds, Jane? 32. The answer you were looking for. Put those in there. And then let's get my little pinch of salt before I start rubbing into the larder cupboard, and stacks of table salt. I think we all remember that from our childhood. So how do I get into this? Remove this label to sprinkle. Do I want to do that? Let's have a look here. It's like a jam jar getting into this salt packet. I think I probably do want to sprinkle it into my hand so I can then fabricate the pinch. This is 2 pinches of salt, because I'm doing a pinch of salt for every pound of flour and 2 ounces of butter. Because I'm doing a double batch, 2 pounds of flour, 4 ounces of butter, I'm going to do a double pinch. It's like 1st of May twice. Pinch me. There we go, 2 pinches. A little bit over the shoulder. Here we go. Right. I have washed my hands, but I'm just going to do them once more. And when I'm rubbing for this kind of recipe, scone, pastry, etc., I do like to wash my hands in cold water, because then I find that doesn't start the butter melting as I go in. So let's just get all the cubes of butter nicely dusted, and then it's a very simple process. You just start squeezing the butter through your fingers. A good mix of flour and butter. Squeeze the cubes so they start to break up into little flat discs. Let them drop back into the bowl. Search with your fingers through the flour for another cube of butter. Just squeeze it within a flour so that the butter is being coated continually with flour. And having that coating, there we go, rub, rub, rub. It's a very, very satisfying process for the soup. Just make sure you don't spend too much time in one part of the flour mix, because this needs to be an even rub. So again, search with your fingers, find the big lumpy bits of butter cube, pick it up in your fingers, and you're picking it up with this kind of action. Squeeze. So there's see, I've just picked up a whole cube, if you can see that. Squeeze it with the butter, squeeze the butter with the flour, and I'm now spreading the fat throughout the flour to create that unbearably light mix. So it's a very time-consuming process. So you may wish to put the kettle on, flick through a magazine, water your cucumbers, or whatever else you have. Maybe one of those jobs you've been putting off for some time. One of those jobs that's been nagging at you from the corner of your wife's mouth. You know, buy me a patio. You finish that cutting in on the stairwell. When are you going to dig over the ledge patch? Obviously I can do none of those things because I'm rubbing in the fat into the flour for the scone mix. Now you'll get to a point partway through where you find that the cubes of butter that you cut in, remember your 4 ounces of butter to your 2 pounds of flour, you'll find that you no longer find the big cubes because you start to break them all up. What you now have is a fairly messy mix with lumps of butter at different sizes. So it's just fairly general pick up and then rub. Rub through your 4 fingers of each hand, using the thumb as well to actually force, treating the 4 fingers almost like a sieve, like this. You see if I grip my hands like that, a bit of a sieve, and then forcing the flour and butter mixture through your fingers to force it through the sieve-like effect of your 4 fingers of your left hand and the 4 fingers of your right hand. Okay. Around about halfway through this process, what I do find is a good exercise to do is just kind of give the bowl a little bit of a rub. That also serves to sprinkle flour all around, which is the start of your kneading out and rolling out process, so nothing goes to waste in this process at all. So we're into the second stage now where all the big lumps of fat have disappeared. We're searching out the little rolled larger pieces. And then in the second phase I start to do this kind of massaging exercise where I massage the flour and fat mix between my fingers like this. And what that does is the light flour, or the bit that's already been mixed together nicely, fall away through the force of gravity, and it leaves between your hands the kind of the pebbles of the larger pieces of fat that remain, and then you can use your fingers then to just put them through that rubbing process that we described earlier, the finger sieve. So again, rub together, you find bits of fat, they find more flour, and they come together smoothly. And at this point, it's like one of those magic processes where everything does seem to come together beautifully. We're probably about 10 minutes into this process now, I'd say, so it's not a big investment in time. We spend more time enjoying these scones than we do actually making them, especially when you batch bake. It's a Sunday afternoon, the sun's shining, we're batch baking, we'll put some of these in the freezer and we'll bring them out and we'll day. It's a special treat after tea, especially day if we've had a hard week at work. It's nice to have a little treat that we can pull out of the freezer from the back of the fridge. Whilst we're doing this, the smell starts to come through as well, because the fat, the sugar, the flour all mixing together starts to create that evocation of your childhood. You're at the knees of your mother, your father, you smell the sense of promise as ingredients were mixed together before they were put in the oven, and then the magical wait for the cakes to come out of the oven. Not very many people know that, of course, it is known to be truthful. And my mother told me that warm cakes really upset the stomach. You can never eat a warm cake freshly produced from the oven because it will cause you to have a tummy upset. You have to wait until they've sat in a tin for a couple of days, or cold, before you can enjoy the lovely unctuousness. We ignore that advice in this house. As soon as these scones are baked.
Less is more.
Ah, my guest is joining us. Fashion stylist, publishing entrepreneur.
You're giving me a bit too much.
It's Caitlin Forbes. Hello Caitlin, how are you?
As seen on
As seen on the internet, buying clothes.
work published in magazine.
The good burgers of Guildford have never been shod so well.
It's burger.
Yeah, the people who live in the town of Guildford. Burgers. Those who live in the borough of Guildford. That's called burgers. It's just our historical fact. Not only are you getting some baking tips here, Caitlin, you're learning history as well.
What do you think of this?
Pardon?
What do you think of this?
I've probably not even pressed the right button. Anyway, this is my well, you excuse me, come talk to my come talk to my friends.
I've listened to it.
You've been on the Big Tour radio show, haven't you? Tell me about that experience. When was that?
You're really giving it 100%, aren't you?
Tell me about your love of skill extricts ever since you appearance on the Big Tour radio show.
I did not have any.
Didn't you meet a very famous Formula 1 commentator?
Did I?
And in the radio studio they had a skill extrict set up so you could all play it.
Yeah, so I don't really know.
Why do I remember these things and you don't? Anyway, back to scones. We'll hear more from Caitlin later. Strange enough, Caitlin always appears when the scones are ready. There's a selection of fruit preserves. Caitlin, interesting fact, Caitlin doesn't like strawberries. No, excuse me. Caitlin doesn't like strawberry jam, but she does like strawberries and she does like sugar. So how she can claim not to like strawberry jam, none of us are really quite aware. We'll ask her about that later when she comes back. So, there we have the completion. That's taken us around about 15 minutes from initial sieving of the guest sieved flour to get us to the state of readiness to apply the wet ingredients to this rubbed in mix. So again, this mix now looks like a consistent colour, consistent texture, there's no big bits of butter, everything's nicely mixed in, we've evenly spread the fat throughout the wheat recipe, and it's now ready to turn into a sticky dough. So let's now just move to that next step in the process. Liquid. Now the wet process requires, let's move this over here. Right. What the wet process requires is milk, but optional extra, for every pound of flour 2 ounces of fat, 1 egg. Because I have 2 pounds of flour, 4 ounces of fat, I'm doing 2 eggs. I'm going to crack these into a much loved Pyrex measuring jug. And 1 and 2. Not for me, these one-handed egg cracking tricks. I like to use the tools provided by the drawer. What I haven't done is grab a whisking implement and the bottom just to get the egg white and egg yolk mixed together. Whisk a tiny little bit of air in it. We're not talking about building meringue or soft pizza here. Getting the mix together. Like so. The custard colour. That's a nice consistent yellow. Here I have my milk. Using the colour Mexican, the green for semi-skimmed milk. Of course you can choose blue for full fat milk or red for skimmed milk, depending on your personal preference. For every 2 pounds of, for every 1 pound of flour, half a pint of milk with the 1 egg, 2 pounds of flour, 2 eggs, 1 whole pint of milk. Seems like a lot when you consider how dry the scone mix normally is. And again, just gently mix the two together, evenly distributing the egg between the milk. So we get that nice, again, you're looking for that smooth, consistent colour. You see streaks of egg yolk. You don't want that, it has to be mixed up nicely together. And that's it, no more. Don't have to fuss with that too much. Then just make a nice little dip for the garden labourers and builders amongst us. We're about to mix some cement up. So into the middle with that pint of liquor, the milk and egg mix, into our rubbed flour, fat and sugar. Then I like to use a knife. This is a trick of a pastry chef. Those of you who might be opting for some mechanical aids and devices would be using perhaps a dough hook to mix this through an industrial baker, or using a machine. It does somehow bind all the components together without too much drama, and thus far without getting too many sticky fingers. And again, one of the great delights of making a good scone recipe is just how quickly the dough yields to the mix and becomes recognisable as a product that you can actually start to work with and produce scones. So you want to go very, very, very close to being able to turn this out. So just making sure that all the dry mix is bound up with the liquid mix. And you can see I'm going to have to get in with my fingers now to do the remaining piece. So again, I'll just push it in with the back of my hand in a semi-kneading motion. Just make sure that dough goes around the bowl, picks up all the dry ingredients, and there we have it. Without substantial effort, a lovely ball of scone dough. Right, let's move to the next step in the process. Get some items out of the way, which is to roll out, or in fact knead out, the elements of the mix, so that we can then. Now what I'm doing is I'm just lightly dusting my baking sheets here, releasing a bit of flour through the sieve to evenly distribute the flour over the baking sheets, and what this will do is stop the scones sticking during the baking process in the oven. It's certainly a lot easier than any kind of dealing with backs and other trademarked items. But again, I'm just going to sprinkle some flour onto this cleaned worktop and roll out our scone dough onto the surface. Now, this is a very simple process here and after. I'm going to split this into two just so it's easier to work. Move that to one side. Let's a little bit of pile so it doesn't stick to the top. So now we've got our item, half the mix. This is equivalent to 1 pound of flour, 2 ounces of fat, handful of sugar, and then half pint of milk and 1 egg, all mixed together to create this lovely dough. So many of you might be thinking, go for the rolling pin. Oh no. What we're trying to do is keep the scone light. So if we put too much pressure, we're not making a pastry, we're making a scone. We want to be unbearably light. So we don't apply too much downward pressure to all the effort we've done to rub in and sift in lightness into this. We want to keep it at a very, the word I'm looking for, keep the air trapped, within the scone dimensions. So, cutter, choice here. Do we go for the frilly cutter, or do we go for the more contemporary, classical, simple circle? I'll tell you what size this is. I can't remember it one, but it's about an average size cutter. And I'm going to simply break the lightly kneaded out dough into the immediately recognisable scone shapes. I'm already starting to salivate at the prospect of a lovely warm scone. Remembering to ignore the advice that things from the oven that are warm, give you an upset stomach. They don't. They just taste better. But they do have the unfortunate side effect of disappearing a lot faster than your mother's would like. So there so far, first knead out, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 scones. What I'm expecting to get is about 12 or so from this first batch. You'll see these are about ½ inch deep. The deeper the scone that you cut, the more inviting the rise as the scone bakes. And the more inviting the rise, the more it's likely to create a very natural split in the scone itself, which you'll see in a moment. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. One extra. So again, I could probably have kneaded that out a little less thinly, but a little trick I do here is I'm left with a bit of random dough that I don't want to spread out, so I just form that into the cutter itself using my kneading finger, index and middle finger, to create a scone shape item there. So around about ½ an inch thick. So let's place these on the baking tray before we go on to the next half of the batch. I'll probably get these around 16 onto this main first baking sheet, which is a bit of a square dimension, so 4 rows of 4. I'll do the rogue one in a moment with this. And what I'm trying to do again is just keep any kind of downward pressure away from the scone, so that the scone itself will be allowed to rise and all that air can push the material up and out. So there we are, that's so far it's 13. So now we can look at our next half. Again, just to make sure my surface is liberally sprinkled. And I'm looking to get another 3 there, and maybe another 9 on the second tray. So again, push it out somewhat roughly, still trying to get an even depth. And what I'm also looking for is a nice smooth surface. I'm not too fussy about it, but I don't want great gouges. I don't want it to look like a moon surface. I want a nice effective brown crust on the top of each scone. So let's count these out. 1, 2. Oh, by the way, what I'm doing here between each cut is I keep a little pile of flour and I just dip the cutter in each time, so it gives me less adhesion. It allows the scone to slide out of the thing. I hate having to push a scone out because again it applies pressure to compress the air bubbles I fought so hard to preserve. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Again, let's get these out of the way. So there's my first sheet of 16, and I'm going to build up my second sheet, probably containing around about 9. There's 4, 5, 6. So again, let's just mix these cut out bits together. Nothing gets wasted. Checking the time, so we're now about half an hour or so in, and we're about to have the fun bit. Let's just put these in the oven. A little bit of clear up before we then gather the family. We'll sit down, enjoy a nice cup of tea, nice brew, and some freshly baked warm scones, as we call it. Cream tea, or creamy tea, for those of us who like gin. And scone and jam and cream. So again, I think my estimating is about right. Put 12 scones out of the second half, so maybe ever so slightly thicker in the mixing, in the kneading out rather. There's the final one, so let's get these distributed. Yeah. So, 4 rows of 4, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Excellent, 25 aren't they? So, now I'm going to pop these in the oven, hot oven. The oven's been warming up since we started. 180 degrees, fan, probably about 200 degrees. You can probably go a little bit hotter if you want, but at least 180 degrees. And you want to have these in for about 8 or 9 minutes. but do watch them so that they don't go too far, and don't take them out until you've got a nice golden crust on top. Let's put the first lot in. And done. 9 minutes. Okay, and there we have it. Nice light brown crispy coating on the top of the scones. 9 minutes in that hot oven, which was fan 180. All good. Let's see what they taste like. And now that they're out of the oven, look at that split. You only get that split if you get the decent thickness of scone, and that's where you want to break it with your fingers, fill it with jam and cream in whichever order your county dictates.